Welcome back to another Elden Ring video. In this video I will be talking about keen weapons or dex scaling weapons. Again, this is a top 5 dex based keen weapon list. These top 5 are my personal picks for something you could get within the first 20 minutes of the game to set you up, if not the start of the game, the whole game. Again, I believe that these weapons hold up as both starter and mid-end game weapons. I will go through the top 5 and where you can get them in the first 20 minutes of the game. Again, some of these will require farming, but as I show in the video, it's not that big of a deal. There's a little bit of a setup for one. First off, if you head to the Warmaster's Shack in Limgrave, you can pick up, this might not end up being your end game Ash of War, but for starting and getting that keen bonus on your weapons, the quick step is a very good bet, as it is usable on all melee armaments, so any weapon basically. So if you head over to Agheel Lake, there's a ruin, and you just jump over the wall with Torrent, and the Twinblade is down there. Now, if anyone's used the Twinblade before, they'll know that it is a very fun weapon. Multiple quick slashes. It's a bit like having 2 weapons when you've only got 1. You can obviously two-hand it, and it gets even better. But it's a great weapon, and the stats back it up as well. It's a very solid weapon. When you start, it starts at C scaling on Keen for Dex by +6, which is still early game. It's B scaling all the way to 25. Next up, we have the Uchigatana. You can get this as the starting class weapon for the Samurai, but if you choose to go for the Wretch, for instance, which some people do, as they learn more about the game, the Wretch starts as level 1, so the initial first few levels are cheaper, but as I say, either way, you can get this as a starting class weapon for the Samurai, or you can go to the Deathtouched Catacombs in the northeast-ish of Limgrave on the road to Caelid, and it is very easy to get. Just, you don't even need to kill any enemies, you could literally run past everything and grab the sword and be away. Again, I recommend this as probably the best starting class weapon in the game, and definitely will hold up throughout the game. Scaling for the Uchigatana on Dex starts at B, and at +23 you'll get A scaling. Of course, this does have bleed as well, which is fantastic, which means that you could, in theory, infuse your weapon with another skill, and you'll be able to do magic damage, for instance, and bleed, or insert other affix here. Very good weapon. Next up is the Scimitar, which is a favourite amongst a lot of people who like curved swords. Not only because it has the best scaling of the normal curved swords at B, straight out of the gate, and then at +16 gets to A scaling. Of course, the warrior class starts with dual scimitars, but again, if you were to start with the Wretch or another character and wanted to switch up, you could farm the Scimitar at the Deathtouched Catacombs, which is the same place as the Uchigatana is, but it's a weapon you'll have to farm from the skeletons. Now, there's 2 ways to do this. There's the normal way and there's the easy way. The easy way takes a little bit more time initially, but definitely will save you time on the farm. So let's say, for instance, you have a character who doesn't have a scimitar and you wanted to farm the scimitar. The easy way is go to the third church of Marika and chase down the little scarab outside the church. If you grab the Sacred Blade Ash of War, and this is usable on most melee weapons. It's basically everything except whips, fists, and claws. So if you grab this, obviously it will allow you to buff your weapon to do holy damage, which does a lot more damage to skeletons and means that you don't need to kill them twice, and possibly one-shot kill, as it does a lot more damage than just a standard weapon. Once you have the Ash of War, you'll need to get Melina to invite you to the Round Table Hold. So then you can add the Ash of War to your chosen weapon in order to buff it with the holy damage, sacred damage. This you can do by heading out round Stormvale Castle to the first Site of Grace in Liurnia. This usually triggers her to appear and invite you to that Round Table Hold. And I've shown an example here of the run that I do through the Deathtouched Catacombs to farm the Scimitar. And it took 5.5 rounds, which took about 12 minutes by the time I had completed and got the Scimitar. Next up is the Great Knife. Now, as knives go, this is probably the strongest one outside of Reduvia and Scorpion Stinger. Obviously the Black Knife has its own place there as well, as they all have their particular good points of using them. The Great Knife, though, on Keen starts at a B scaling with Dex, and once you get to +9 is A scaling, and then at +22 you'll get S scaling, which is great. It's one of the few weapons in the game that has S scaling, and also has bleed. This means that your dex will go that much further, and also having the affix of bleed means that you will be able to do a lot of damage with low expenditure of endurance. In the Lakeside Crystal Cave, there's 2 enemies at the beginning. One is walking away and one is hiding in the bush. It's the guy in the bush that jumps out at you, and Site of Grace is literally right there. So it's a very fast farm. 5 runs will take you about a minute. So you can easily farm 1 or 2 of these if you wanted to go dual wield Great Knives, which I may be doing a challenge build to do just that. Last but not least is the Guardian Swordspear. This is a halberd but doesn't really act a lot like the other halberds, as it has more slashing attacks than it does poking attacks. On keen scaling, starts at B and by plus 11 goes to A. So again, great weapon for scaling with dex, and you can apply any additional buff to it as you can with the others. This isn't that far to get to. If you just jump across to the Weeping Peninsula and head up to where the Erd Tree is, there is a Catacombs just beneath it, the Tombsward Catacombs. You can use it as a jumping off point for the Site of Grace, and there is 3 of them that spawn in a very small area just next to the entrance to the Catacombs, and they are an easy farm. Should take about a minute to farm them. I think I got this within about 10 minutes of farming these 3 guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and got something out of it. Any comments? I'd be glad to hear your thoughts on these weapons and a discussion of which ones you would get. Again, if you like the video, hit the like button, and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.